everybody, and welcome to MegoMuseum's Vintage Mego. And this is a very special episode. Actually, I consider it quite an honor to be the one delivering this episode. Mainly because I really didn't make this discovery or do the legwork this time. This sort of fell into my lap. That goes to a gentleman I met by the name of Jordan, who deserves all the praise for solving this Mego mystery. And I'm talking about a figure that I have wondered about for well over 25 years. The figure we affectionately call the Mego Mystery Man, the Mego Mystery Pilot, the Mego Mystery Astronaut. I have done a video on this, and I'll put a link here, but in case you haven't seen that earlier video, and now it's out of date, let me quickly give you the backstory on this figure and the mystery. The Mystery Man figure was brought to collector attention in John Bonavita's seminal book about Mego action figures. John conjectured he was an astronaut in the book, and this assumption's fairly logical considering his outfit and helmet greatly resembled the Planet of the Apes astronaut. So for decades, and even now, he still occasionally gets called the Mystery Astronaut. Based on collector recollection and a few other sources, we know that this figure popped up at closeout stores in the mid-1970s. A collector by the name of Andy, who bought back in the 70s, he dated every price tag as he purchased things. So we know that he bought the Mystery Man figure for 49 cents in 1977 at a shop called City Dump. Now, it's not strange to see discarded Mego tooling on knockoff action figures of the era. The helmet that was initially created for the Action Jackson line was utilized in a plethora of non-Mego toys in the 1970s. My personal favorite was Shindana's Disco Wanda, who, when she wasn't on the dance floor, she was jumping out of planes, and good for her. However, there is a big difference between it and a lot of the other Mego knockoffs of the era, most famously like Captain Eagle, who was made to sell discarded Action Jackson suits. This is because the Mystery Man has an honest-to-goodness Mego Type 1 body. It's very unlikely that the figure wasn't made without Mego knowing about it, and therein lies the mystery. The head sculpt for the Mystery Man is, of course, the Batman Bruce Wayne head from Mego. Mego had abandoned the concept of the removable cowl for the Batman in 1974, so the head was famously reused for several characters internationally, including Italy's Tex Willer and South Africa's superhero and oatmeal spokesperson Jet Jungle. These are both two prized and highly collectible figures, just like our subject today. The major difference between this guy and his brothers is he has some very detailed blue eyes. And of course, there's nothing on the back of his neck, very similar to his secret identity, but not quite close enough. I honestly think I've heard so many theories about this figure that I've forgotten more than I remember, and I seem to remember some of the crazier ones. People telling me they got this in a Planet of the Apes box. Every kind of concept, from it being an abandoned TV character, to it being a Blue Angel, to him being, a French comic book star. But you know what? I just didn't see the real answer coming. 4 years ago, I made a video on this subject, and honestly, my motives were not to educate people on it, but to put it out there, like, what is this? Does anybody know? Does anybody have an inkling of an idea as to where this came from? And I also went around and asked former Mego employees, and this is where it gets mildly interesting. While most of them would guess and say, I think that's from Planet of the Apes or something else, when I finally got to sit down with Marty Abrams 2 years back to interview him for our Toy Ventures Planet of the Apes series, I asked him a ton of questions. We spent 2 solid hours together, and he was really on fire and helpful. I, of course, showed him this figure and said, what is this? I truly had low expectations because of my experience with this figure, but Marty actually blew me away because I could tell he recognized it. He looked at it a long time and said, "I think this is something my dad did." And then went on to explain that his father, David Abrams, founder of Mego, would occasionally make toys for other companies. And he most notably mentioned the Snoopy die-cast cars for Aviva, which actually helped Mego figure out how to make die-cast toys. He then went on to tell me that he couldn't remember the concept, but he believed it was a stuntman, Evel Knievel kind of thing. He told me to leave it with him, and then the next time I talked to him, he said, "Yeah, the story is I don't remember anymore, I'm sorry." But still, he acknowledged it, he said they made it, he just couldn't remember why. And that was more than I had going in, and I had no idea, but this would be very helpful in the future. Flash forward a month ago, and I got a comment on my Mystery Man video from a guy saying, "Oh, I just found a boxed one of these at the flea market." I immediately followed up, but I didn't get a response from him, sadly, as to what's on the box. 2 days later, I get a PM from a fellow by the name of Jordan saying, "I think this might be of interest to you." And that day, I got to read his name for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Sky Guy by Schaper Toys. Schaper Toys was a Minnesota-based toy company famous for the Cootie Bug. And in the mid-1970s, they launched their biggest hit, Super Toe Football, which was just dominating, and I think is still actually in use to this day. And while we have been unable to find a mid-70s Schaper catalog to verify this, Jordan was very quick to notice that this mid-70s toy called Sky Crane uses the exact same font as Sky Guy, so they definitely are connected. The packaging explains the concept beautifully. The new action set that simulates the thrills of skydiving. As the back of the box mentions, the 8-inch Sky Guy doll has fully movable joints for posing in any action scene. With the dual guideline and ring attachment, he can be made to soar out and back, simulating the free fall of parachute skydiving. Essentially, you put a parachute backpack that we are all missing on the figure itself, and then a series of pulleys and lines with a ring simulates free falling. It kind of is almost an ancestor to flyaway action, but slightly less complicated. The consensus between Jordan and myself is also this: it's very possible this toy did not get made. It didn't make it into full production. While the figures were done, it just may have been canceled for a number of reasons. The original lot that this figure was found in was at an independent auction house in Minnesota, which was a half an hour drive from where Schaper was. So it's possible that this is just a sample somebody still had and ended up on the auction block after an estate sale. It did not go for a lot of money, and the buyer most definitely didn't realize that it was solving a long mystery for Mego collectors. The other reason that I fear it's not been produced is the fact that these figures were just closed out in baggies, so it looks like they just didn't go forward with the concept. However, if anybody has one of these parachutes in a parts box, now you know where that goes to. Now, when Jordan reached out to me, I actually did a Stop the Press with Toy Ventures issue 10, and you will find a full article about this toy in there. But it felt weird to not share it here on this platform. You shouldn't have to pay for a major Mego discovery, and I was just so grateful that this worked out. I mean, my gosh, it's all I could hope for. I love getting to be the guy who delivers this story. And you know, I'm okay with my loose Sky Guy figure. I don't need to find the box one, although that is just one awesome package. Like, that is gorgeous. I love this. So, Mego mystery solved. Sky Guy. Sold by Schaper Toys, not Mego. But made by Mego. So, he's not a knockoff. He's a legitimate Mego. That's all the time we have for Vintage Mego this week, but what a Vintage Mego. I just want to end by thanking Jordan Barrett again for sharing this. This is just incredible, and that's what it's all about, is just sharing information. And now we know. I'm so happy, and I'm sure that a lot of you are making an eBay safe search right now, and I don't blame you. Anyway, let me know what you think of this, either in the comments below or at our Facebook group, Megomania, or the reliable old forums at MegoMuseum.com. No wrong way to do it. I'll be back next week with another podcast. Until then, be well and talk toys, not other people. Cheers.